Welcome back to Lawn Rush. In today's video, I want to talk about leaving salt in the spreader. This is one of those things that is not endorsed by any salt spreader manufacturer, and by no means am I suggesting that anybody should do this. It's recommended to wash your spreader out after every storm and all that good stuff, but the reality is the demands that I have for my spreader, for my contracts, and the situation that I'm in, I do leave salt in my spreader at all times. Now, this particular spreader is a Salt Dog SHPE 2000, and all the critical components of the spreader are stainless steel. After leaving salt in the spreader multiple times, there really isn't any signs of corrosion or anything like that on any of the parts. Like the auger still looks pretty much brand new. The other components, like the hangers that hold the inverted V, those components look fine as well. Although they are steel and they are not stainless steel, the powder coat has held up pretty well on those parts. So as far as corrosion and wear and tear, I feel like the Salt Dog SHPE is one of the better spreaders if you're going to be leaving salt in the spreader, which again, I do not recommend anyone leave salt in their spreader, but I'm just talking about how I just so happen to be leaving salt in my spreader in my situation. So the reason I do it is because I want to have this salt ready to go, just like today. If I wake up in the morning and commercial properties need salting before they open, I can get there before the property manager gets there, before anybody gets there, and I can have it salted. So it really just increases my speed. The last thing I want to be doing is getting loaded during a storm where I keep enough in here to go get things started. Sometimes I'll keep a ton in here, sometimes I'll keep it like a half a ton in here, and I can go spread that ton and then I can go get loaded again. So that is kind of how I'm playing it. So there's a couple things you need to know if you plan on trying this. Number one, you have to kind of look at it from a strategic point of view. If you leave salt in your spreader and you drive the vehicle into a heated garage, then you're going to set yourself up for failure. So with me, with salt in my spreader, I avoid the heated garages like the plague. So if the truck needs an oil change, if the truck needs to be washed, and it's a dually, so I got a big truck wash here that I can drive the entire truck into the truck wash, I'll avoid that. I will not drive into those places because they are heated. I will not drive into those places with the salt in the spreader. The reason I won't go into a heated garage with the salt in the spreader is because when you bring cold salt from outside into a heated environment, the salt will sweat. Just like if you have a cold glass of water in a heated room or in the summertime, that cold glass of water will sweat and have water driplets all over it. The same thing happens to your salt. If you don't believe me, take a bag of salt and put it in the cab of your truck with the heat running. If you do that, you will find that that bag of salt, if there's any holes in it, but either way, once you open that salt, or even the outside of that bag of salt, if it's a sealed bag, the outside of that bag of salt, if the salt's been sitting outside and it's at the outside temperature, the freezing cold temperature, that salt is going to start to sweat. And because it's cold, and the nature of the salt, it will become wet. Now, once you go into a heated building, the salt gets wet. You leave that heated structure and you go outside, and that it gives you potential for the salt to freeze. Now, I did test this out. I tried this. I had to get the truck wash. I went into the truck wash heated garage. I was only in there for about 25 to 30 minutes. It took the guys a little while because I had a trailer too. They were washing my dump trailer as well, and they were doing a full detailed wash. So it took a little time for them to wash this dump trailer. But sure enough, the next day I had to get that ton of salt out of there, and it did partially start to freeze up on me. Just like the outsides, like the very top of it, there was a couple of clumps that I had to crawl up in there and take off the top metal and break up a couple of clumps and spread them. It wasn't real bad because I wasn't in there that long, but definitely was an issue. But the salt ended up coming out of there the next day anyway, but definitely confirmed my belief that, hey, going into a heated building with cold salt makes it sweat, and then you go back out in the cold, and then it freezes up on you. So avoiding cold places like or avoiding warm places like the plague. So another thing is moisture. So when you put the salt in here, and if it's a dry, sunny day, I'll take the tarp off and I'll let the salt dry out on a dry, sunny day. Or at minimum, I could pop one of these off like this, and I could kind of let the moisture out by leaving one of the ends up. So let's look up in here. Let's take a look at our salt and see if it's frozen. There you have it. The salt is not frozen, and I'm watching this material, and we don't have a single clump in here. This salt has been in here for about 2 weeks, and because of this, I'm ready to go at all times. So the salt has been in here for about 2 weeks, and like I said, I've been avoiding warm buildings. If there's a warm building, hey, I can't go in there. If we have to change our oil or anything like that, either I'll do it myself outside, or I'll have to get rid of this salt, take it out, and I can reload it, whatever. But I won't drive into there with this salt unless I'm going to spread that salt right away. Letting it dry out, letting your salt dry out when it's sunny, popping off that tarp, and you'll see it too. You'll see moisture building up here on the bottom of the tarp. If you look real close up in here, there's some little bit of water droplets, very few. But when like after I drove into that car wash in a warm environment, tons of humidity, I could see on the tarp that it was just getting wet up under there, and I immediately took the tarp off and let the sun hit it. But this salt does have a little bit of moisture in it, just from the fact that you can see those little bit of water driplets. But basically, I'm gonna wait until it's sunny, or if it's not snowing, at least if it's not snowing, and I'll take the tarp off and let the salt breathe a little bit, and it will be okay. So it's kind of interesting. Yes, it can be done. If you think about it, like, salt doesn't turn hard as if it's sitting in a pile, and if you don't have it in your spreader, it's still sitting outside in the pile. So why doesn't it freeze there? So, it's all about watching things. Is it possible? Yes, totally possible. I've been getting away with it all year. I've had salt in my spreader for a month and still spread, no issues. So just working with it, playing with it, paying attention to the weather and the temperatures and the sun, and letting it breathe from time to time. And yeah, you're always ready. And the thing is, here's the thing. If you're doing small commercial salting, it's getting a little cold out here. If you're doing small commercial salting, you can get a tailgate spreader. But then you've got to buy, turn this fan down. Then you've got to buy bagged salt, which is going to cost you a lot more money. Then you've got to lift 50-pound bags, which is going to be a lot more work. And then when you get to the lot, you're going to have to put the salt into the spreader. Then you're not going to be able to use your tailgate and all that stuff. So for me, it just saved a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of work. For small commercial, we can get a ton of salt, and we can hit a good number of properties with a ton of salt and have a lot better profit margin and a lot less labor costs by just dumping it in here, letting it sit there for a while, and until we need it. And then when we do need it, the salt's ready to go. There's no waiting around and none of that. We're just ready to spread salt. And I do know it's not what the manufacturers recommend and all that good stuff, but nonetheless, we've been getting away with it now for a couple of years, and we haven't had any issues. Just working it out and learning how we can get away with it. So anyway, I'm gonna spread a little bit of this and see how it goes. Salt Dog controller right here. Spinner was set to 1 just because. And let's turn the auger on and see if it jams up. Nope, she's a spinning. She's a spreading. Pretty sweet, huh? But yeah, that's it for today's video. This is Lawn Rush. My name is Sean. See you guys in the next video. Over and out.